Hey, what's up everybody, and welcome back to Newstos. And today we actually got some pretty major news for all of the big three. On one side you have Xbox and Nintendo, which are both killing it right now over in Japan, and then PlayStation is changing everything in terms of how these consoles are sold this generation. I know it's been very difficult to get a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox Series, but with what PlayStation is doing right now, that might actually change sometime here soon. So we're going to go over all of that today, plus plenty more. To start this video off though, we're going to be talking about Ghost Recon Frontlines. This is a game that was just announced last week, and well, already it's receiving a delay. Yeah, check this out. This is what they posted over on Twitter. We have an important message regarding Ghost Recon Frontline's closed test. We've decided it is best to postpone the closed test for Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon Frontline. The development team is dedicated to creating the best experience possible. We'll share details on the new date for the closed test as soon as we can. Thank you for your ongoing support. Now, in this post here, they don't exactly go into great detail about why this game was delayed, but I really don't think it's all that difficult to figure out why. This game has received a ton of criticism since it was originally announced. This is some kind of free-to-play battle royale squad-based game, and this isn't exactly what the community expected or maybe even wanted. Ghost Recon in the past has been a tactical shooter, and this is something that I have pointed out a few times in last week, but not every game needs to be battle royale, and I think Ghost Recon is an example of just that. I think if they would have just announced a Ghost Recon game that resembled more of that classic formula instead, the community would have been thrilled about that. But instead, it almost seems like Ubisoft is chasing that trend for popular battle royale games. They want a piece of that pie, but truthfully, it's a very crowded market. I mean, yeah, there's some really successful battle royale games out there, but there's also a lot of failures as well. And I guess Ubisoft is kind of learning that the hard way, whether that be with Hyperscape or now with Ghost Recon Frontlines. And I do wonder with this delay if they try to go back to the drawing boards to just try to figure out how to do something a little bit different with this game. Next up, we're going to be talking about Nintendo, as they released a few big products over the last week, being the Nintendo Switch OLED, and then of course the one that everybody seems to be talking about right now, Metroid Dread. Metroid Dread has already entered the discussion as a Game of the Year candidate, and people are just absolutely loving this game. But one of the big topics that surrounds this game right now is how well is it actually going to sell? Typically in the past, the Metroid franchise has not been a big-time seller, but that seems to be shifting real quick with Metroid Dread. We did learn earlier this week that Metroid Dread is the fastest selling entry in the entire franchise over in that region, and well, guess what? The same can now be said over in Japan, and this time it just absolutely shattered the previous record. Previously, the fastest selling Metroid game over in Japan was Fusion, selling 49,680 units. Meanwhile, Metroid Dread in just 3 days has sold 86,798 units, and it's important to note that this is only physical sales. Obviously, digital has went way up in recent years, which means that this has probably far eclipsed just 86,000 units. We might actually be looking more around the 100,000 unit mark, and yeah, this is absolutely amazing for the Metroid franchise. Metroid has never been a big-time seller just in general, especially over in Japan. But actually, if we take a look at this, Metroid Dread has now already become one of the best-selling in the entire franchise. It is right now the 4th best-selling Metroid game in Japan lifetime. And again, this is just 3 days. The only Metroid games that sold more as of this moment would be Fusion at 155,000 units, Prime Hunters at 90,000 units, and then the original Metroid. We unfortunately don't have data for either Metroid 2 or Super Metroid, but out of the games that we do have data for, Metroid Dread, it's pretty easily going to at least pass Metroid Fusion at 155,000 units sold. And this is exactly what you want to see from the Metroid franchise. You are seeing some very real growth here, and if it continues at this pace, maybe Nintendo in the future will take this franchise just a little bit more serious. As for the Switch OLED, it also had a successful launch, selling 138,000 units over in Japan, though that is a little less than the Switch Lite, which sold 178,000 units at launch. much. Though I don't really find that to be overly surprising just because Japan loves more mobile consoles, but yeah, still 138,000 units sold in its first week. That's pretty successful for the Switch OLED. Now, speaking of Japan, the Xbox Series this generation is absolutely killing it. This is something that we have talked about a few times in the past, but it does look like the Xbox brand is just majorly improving over in that region. Now, I'm not going to say that it's selling anywhere near as well as the Nintendo Switch or the PlayStation 5, but that's not really the point. The Xbox Series compared to the Xbox One has been a drastic improvement. In fact, the Xbox Series in less than 1 year has already sold more than 100,000 units in Japan, and just for comparison's sake, the Xbox One took 4 years to do the same thing. That is absolutely insane, but what makes this even crazier is that by the end of this year, the Xbox Series will more than likely have outsold the Xbox One lifetime over in Japan. The Xbox One over in Japan sold about 115,000 units lifetime, while the Xbox Series is already at 102,000 units in less than 1 year. And this really just goes to show you all the effort that Phil Spencer has been putting into that region is actually paying off. Since Phil Spencer has taken over as the Xboss, he has made a concerted effort in getting more Japanese games on Xbox consoles, and we're really starting to see the fruits of his labor here. And Japanese customers are really starting to take note of that. And this isn't just for Xbox Series in general, but also we have to talk about the inclusion of Xbox Game Pass. If you take a look at Xbox Game Pass, some of the biggest games on that service are oftentimes Japanese published games. Square Enix, Namco Bandai, Capcom, as well as Sega are all big supporters of Xbox Game Pass. Games like Final Fantasy, Nier Automata, Monster Hunter World, Resident Evil, and Yakuza have all appeared on Xbox Game Pass. Even just here recently, Xbox Game Pass got Scarlet Nexus, which released this year. That's a big Japanese game to release on Xbox Game Pass. And it goes well beyond that because Xbox Game Pass has also gotten games like Dragon Quest XI, Dragon Quest Builders 2, Octopath Traveler, and the list just kind of goes on and on. They are getting some real support from Japanese publishers here, and Japanese gamers, they're going to notice this. I'm sure this type of stuff has a big effect over in Japan, and this is really going to be important not just for the Japanese region, but also for Xbox gamers across the world. One thing that Xbox gamers have consistently asked for is more support for Japanese games on Xbox consoles. And if you do listen to Japanese publishers, one thing that has been really important for them is to have success with their games in their own region. And prior to the Xbox Series, there wasn't really much of an opportunity to have success in Japan with Xbox just because of how abysmal the Xbox One is sold. Here with the Xbox Series, though, it does seem like that they've made a complete turnaround in the Japanese region, and this should mean that less Japanese games will skip out on the Xbox this generation. So really, this is great news for everybody, and just kudos to Phil Spencer and Xbox on all of their early success with the Xbox Series over in that region. Hopefully, we'll see much more of this going forward, and of course, we'll keep an eye on when it outsells the Xbox One lifetime. But yeah, it definitely looks like that will happen before the end of 2021. Next up, we need to talk about those stock shortages for the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. Since these consoles have launched, they have really struggled to meet that initial demand. And not only is this because the initial demand is just incredibly high, but also because there's some other issues as well, such as bots and scalpers buying up all these consoles from different retailers. It's been quite problematic this generation, especially considering that these consoles have almost exclusively been sold online. You can't just go to the store and pick these things up, but you're relying on buying these consoles online. And unless you're fast enough, then you're just kind of out of luck. These consoles, they do usually sell out within minutes. So this has left big console makers in a bit of a bind because they want actual customers to get their hands on these consoles, because if a scalper buys a console and it's just sitting at their house or whatever, well, then they're not selling any games. That's not what they want. They want these consoles to be sold to real customers. And well, it looks like PlayStation might have a solution this holiday, and this could actually change everything. Yeah, so what they're doing here is that they're going to let you register for a chance to buy the PlayStation 5 this holiday. You can go over to their website, which I will leave in the description below, use your PlayStation ID, and then register for a chance to get said PlayStation 5. Now, unfortunately, this is only for United States customers, which is very unfortunate. I do hope this makes its way overseas as well sometime here soon. But for the time being, this is for United States customers, and it does eliminate a lot of the problems that we've seen this generation. You won't just have a couple minutes to buy said console, but instead, if you're choosing, you're going to get a specific time frame to buy what you want, and that is a big improvement. Just flat out eliminate third-party retailers here and then sell it themselves. And this is something that I really feel like they should have been doing for quite a while now. Xbox did mention that just earlier this year, that maybe they could do that in the future because, I mean, for the most part, we're buying all these consoles online anyways, and why not just have a queue and buy them directly from Xbox and PlayStation? Xbox did something like that earlier this year with Xbox Insiders. Now we're kind of seeing that here with PlayStation as well. But according to PlayStation, the way they're going to choose customers to get a PlayStation this holiday is going to be based on previous interest in PlayStation activities. Yes, you will have to register with your PlayStation Network ID, and from the sounds of it, they're trying to get these consoles in the hands of long-term PlayStation fans. They're also saying that there's only a limited amount of consoles available, so I don't really know if there's going to be a wide array of consoles available through a service like this, but if this is successful, maybe we can start to see more of this in the future. With how difficult it's been to buy these consoles over the last year, a move like this I do think will be very beneficial. And again, I will leave a link in the description if you do want to go register for a chance to get that PlayStation 5 this holiday. Before we get into the poll of the day, though, one thing that I want to talk about real quick would be Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. This game does release next month in November for the Nintendo Switch, but with their most recent announcements on quality of life improvements, the community is a little bit split on some of the decisions they made, or actually more specifically when it comes to XP share. Now, XP share has always been a thing in the Pokemon universe, so this isn't really anything new. Basically, what it allows you to do is share experience across your entire party to level up your Pokemon faster without actually including them in a battle. For some people, it's a pretty nice little feature as you can level up your Pokemon even faster, but not everybody actually likes XP share because it also makes the game quite a bit easier. And, well, Pokemon's already a pretty easy franchise, at least when it comes to the story. In terms of its competitive multiplayer, these games are actually insanely strategic, but when it comes to the story, the characters for the most part are actually pretty brain dead, so these games are already pretty easy, and with XP share, you're oftentimes just overleveled. It really just makes this game just an absolute breeze to go through, so that's kind of where some fans don't necessarily like XP share. So that's kind of the problem here, because what they're doing in Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl is that you will have XP share once again, but you cannot turn this option off. It is forced, which means there's a very good chance that you will continuously be over-leveled in this game, making it easier than what it already was. And that really is too bad for multiple reasons. Fans have been asking for more difficulty options for years now, and instead Nintendo seems to be going backwards here with offering less options. But then on top of that, I think that there's a large part of the community that just doesn't realize how deep the RPG mechanics are actually in this game. You see that when it comes to the competitive multiplayer, but because the single player is just so simplistic, a lot of fans don't realize it. It really is too bad that they don't just unlock the potential with that by simply adding a difficulty option. By this point, I guess it is what it is. On to the poll of the day, though. With the most recent discussion about right to repair, I wanted to ask you all, have you actually ever tried to repair your own game console? And it does seem like, yeah, a large part of you have, with 41% of you saying yes, while 57% of you said no. And just kind of looking through the comments, I did see quite a few of you all talk about the Xbox 360. That console was pretty infamous for just how broken it was, especially early in the generation. I actually have quite a few memories of trying to fix that console myself. A lot of you all probably remember the towel trick. That was a fun time, but I've actually also tried to repair the PlayStation 2 in the past as well. I did have a problem with that as a kid with the sensor not reading the disc, so we actually had to readjust the laser, which temporarily fixed it. It didn't work for long, But yeah, I have tried to repair a few consoles in my past. Whether that worked or not has kind of been a different story. I mean, when you don't have the money to repair these consoles, or maybe you just don't want to send these consoles in for weeks at a time to actually get repaired, it's really nice to get the chance to just repair it yourself, especially when you succeed. I do find it kind of amusing just how many people in the comments though talked about the Xbox 360. I mean, I love that console and everything. I have some great memories on that platform, but man, that platform just had a ton of issues. The red ring of death was a very real thing. My launch Xbox 360 got red ring. I sent that in for repair. It got another red ring. Then I bought a new Xbox 360, and well, guess what? That one got red ring as well. Yeah, that platform, for as good as it was, yeah, it had a lot of issues. The Tau trick, though, yeah, that one brings back a lot of memories. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode, but if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.